And we're back. Hey, everybody.
Hello there.
We're back from
Yet another long hiatus. You should come to expect this as the norm, frankly.
We're hoping it's not the case, but yeah, we never
The track
know.
record is admittedly against us.
It's true. We're working on it. But that's, we're human beings, and that's all that matters. And we're here to produce quality content for you, the listeners. Semi-quality content for you, the listener. And we're back with episode 7 because I checked. We're hitting it hard. We're going hard in the paint. But, Kyle, how you been?
I've been good, man. Just, I don't know. Things have just been good. Just working on work and
living life to the fullest.
Yes.
That's all we're both doing. So hope you've all been doing well as well. And per the promise of the last podcast, and we'll get caught up, and I'm sure we're going to bounce around a lot because this is a coming back and come to Jesus podcast, essentially for, we're all trying to get back in the swing of things. We said that we would discuss the CRISPR gene modification.
Yes.
So we're here to hit on that.
And there's actually been some interesting developments with that particular topic recently with what's been going on in China. With the, there was an experiment that a Chinese scientist did very below the board, not with the approval of the scientific community, where him and his team genetically modified some unborn Chinese infants to, what was the exact modification they were trying to do? I think they were trying to make them either heart disease or HIV.
I think it was heart disease.
It was either heart disease or HIV. They were trying to make it so that these children would be completely incapable of having any illnesses or contracting illnesses related to that particular genetic strain.
Right.
And
I'm pulling up notes while you talk, so we can.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
At the same time.
Definitely want to make sure
we're not misquoting people.
Yeah.
That's the goal here. Jesus,
that's the key. But yeah, that was that's a huge one because from what I understand, the children either are going to be born soon or are already born. And there's been some alarm in the scientific community that people are thinking oh well, we just opened Pandora's box. We just successfully gene edited, human infants to have specific qualifications per our demands. And that's not necessarily a guarantee because, in specifically modifying this problem, they may have created untold new problems in these children's DNA. You just don't know. That's the type of thing that can only really come out with time.
Right.
So this is just kind of new weird territory, and it's making people, the people who are aware of it, I'm not going to act like this is the biggest thing in the news right now, but it's making the people who are aware of the situation look at CRISPR more, and people who have maybe heard of it but aren't quite sure what it entails have been looking into it more as well now. So we just thought we'd do a little bit of a session on it. We're not fucking MIT scientists. We're not here to give you precise scientific data. We're here to just relay information so that people start to investigate these things on their own, because scientific literacy is very important, kids. It's very important.
No, that's the truth. So for the people that don't know, so CRISPR is actually an acronym. It's not like a descriptor. It's CRISPR, not ER. And the whole actual terminology is CRISPR-Cas9. That's the actual full terminology there. And what CRISPR actually stands for is clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats. And CRISPR-associated genes are Cas genes. So essentially what the CRISPR acts as is kind of like molecular scissors, per se.
I've also heard it called, what was it, cyberknife or something like that?
Yeah, that's the other name for it. And essentially what it does is it allows genetic modification down at the genome level. It allows scientists to go in and cut out pieces of genetic coding and modify them to either, like Kyle was talking about,
eliminate or accentuate specific disease sensitivities or genetic predispositions towards certain ailments. Right. That seems to be what people are focusing on it for right now, just given the international scientific context with this experiment.
Yeah, and so essentially an enzyme called a Cas9 acts as a pair, like I said, of molecular scissors that cuts the strands of DNA at specific locations within the genome and then allows them to go in and modify the genetic coding per se to...
And it's
what else they want to do.
It's not brand new, but it is a fairly recent technology from what I understand.
Yeah, it's gotten increasingly more... I would say airtime as we begin to delve into this. I think the movie, what was it, a couple years ago, Gattaca?
Gattaca is older film.
I mean, recent in terms of like recent films.
Oh, I see.
Like it's within the past 20 years. I think that film.
I think Gattaca was a '90s movie. Yeah.
And it was that was dealing with the concept of it back then.
Designer babies.
Yeah, and now that we know we're not present there. Shout out to Flanagan rocking the jingle balls there, which I'll probably go steal from them in a second. But they it allows, and that movie dealt a lot with the discrimination that would come as a result of
Yeah,
genetic
because
modification.
the main character played by oh God, what is his
Is Ethan
name?
Hawke in that movie?
Ethan Hawke. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. The main character played by Ethan Hawke is the child of parents who decided not to, have a designer baby and have him meet the same specifications as other children in his age group or in the society. And so he's born with like a slew of natural health problems, including like heart disease and things like that. And like the society that the film paints is extremely discriminatory because, it's a literal like genetically modified perfect race and then everyone else. And that's the big fear that some people have, or where that this is a scenario that could turn into, because it's like there are certain things where in this world, in this life, where once you access them, you can't go back.
Right.
Like once we discovered the internet, dude, game over. You can't go back after that. It's only going to go outward from there.
Right.
Or like, gunpowder or like electricity. Certain things, once you discover them, they are a scientific Pandora's box. It's just gone. It's out there now. Mm-hmm. And so that's what some people, including myself in some respect, frankly, are wondering if that's what, CRISPR could become if not properly scientifically regulated, as this unregulated, beyond the reach of scientific ethics experiment just proved.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it's got a lot of there's a lot of really wonderful things that could come as a result of this technology.
For example, curing cancer.
Yeah, you would essentially be able to allow for a disposition for not contriving or not being able to even develop certain diseases and things like that. Are you gonna?
Yeah, I'll get.
Cool. All right, so I'll just keep going. So when you get down to it, it allows for the ability for us as kind of a whole to get in, take out different, genetic coding, in this instance, diseases, and go, hey, we're not going to allow that in the entire breeding process. This is the most hilarious thing I have ever seen, Kyle, and I just want you to know.
Shut your mouth.
So for the viewing audience that has stepped in there, we have the orange jingle ball that Flynn has decided that he was
in our custody.
Yeah, we own it now. And welcome back, Kyle.
Yes.
No, we appreciate you.
I apologize for my long absence.
No, see, that's the fun of this. I
no,
like
dude, I love that.
it.
I'm not exactly going to ask you to edit that out or anything.
Oh no, I'm not going to. Even if you had asked, the answer is no, Kyle.
I guess I better watch my shit then, huh?
Yeah, I'm just gonna. Yes.
You were saying.
Yeah, and so it gets down to what the hope of it is that eventually, by the time that we perfect this technology, that we would allow parents essentially to wipe out the genetic disposition for the child to develop, heart disease, cancer.
And there are also certain really obscure diseases that are just fucking remarkably lethal and torturous in the way that they kill you. And they are entirely genetic. And there's no cure or treatment for them available. This is the type of technology that could erase that sort of problem.
Yeah. And so that's when you put it to people like that, people go, "That's wonderful. Why wouldn't I want that? That sounds so incredible. I would, yes, of course."
Because
I would
also
opt
now
in.
Jeff Bezos with his $14 billion fucking dollars can make 8-foot tall Olympian Superman children.
Yes,
is some people's fear.
And that's the thing that this could also, in theory, be used to do, is to change and alter things like height and, athleticism, because a lot of those are genetically predispositioned. Obesity has a lot to do with your genetic coding. People are just predispositioned to be a little obese. That just happens. And in this instance, in the perfect society that could come of this, essentially, is the rich who could afford to use the CRISPR technology could go to these designers and go, okay, well, yeah, like Kyle was saying, I want my baby to be 6'5" and have
perfect muscle insertions.
Yep. Be the most athletic and fastest human being on the planet. And I'll have that to go, please. Like
With a large drink.
we are not dining in at the CRISPR Cafe. Give me my CRISPR chicken sandwich. Like, that is still the pun that I'm gonna stick with.
Hey, God, you hit me with that before we started recording, and I had to try really hard to like quit laughing before the actual sound came on.
Yeah.
I just hate that, but I can't deny it's clever.
No, but
And this is something that I had spoken about when we did our artificial intelligence and our like artificial intelligence, in terms of like, integrating that technology with human capabilities and human biophysiology in, the year 3000 or whatever the fuck that's actually viable. When you have science that gives you godlike powers like this, and it's, obviously they're young technologies, but if they progressed far enough, you could do some spooky shit with things like that. And for me personally, my immediate suspicion is, oh yeah, this is going to make the inequality and, abuses in this country and countries around the world a million fucking times worse. That's, my immediate fear, because it's just like, I don't know. It just seems like the most likely thing that would happen when you have enough money and politics involved in things like this.
yeah, it's like the same thing when people talk about like space travel. Like, people are like, oh yeah, let's do space travel, but you know who's going to be able to travel to space?
The fucking rich.
The rich will be the only people that will go. And then they'll be like, fuck all you and your dying planet, and we're deucing out wherever they decide to go. But in this instance, it's a very, very near and could happen possibility. Like, it's already happening. Like, you just don't see it at this point because it's not, I don't think it's, medically licensed by, I don't think any country allows you to do it at this point because...
Exactly, because of what this Chinese scientist did. Because when you have flagrant flouting of ethics violations like that, ethics standards like that, you're setting a really dangerous precedent around the world for other back alley scientists to go, oh yeah, I'll just genetically modify this fucking organism with this incredibly innovative and dangerous technology that could have global implications. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and, fuck around with that because this is the message that sends. And, it's just, it's insane. Like 20 years ago, it was remarkable when your dial-up connection worked.
Yeah.
And now we're like,
Let's
you
play
and
God.
I are genuinely sitting here having a discussion about the feasibility of superhuman, like genetically edited children as a thing that could actually happen.
Yes.
And that is a very strange and sobering prospect.
It's an interesting thing to think about because then, you start to wonder what the world becomes at that point. What does it mold into? How does the hierarchy shift? And
the simple reality is, even though I have my obvious fears based on previous human history in terms of like behavior and things that we've done, that's uncharted territory. The ability to completely alter what it means to be a human from the second that you're born is not something that has existed in the human identity ever. It is complete new ground. And so that's why it's scary to people, is because it's like, where the fuck do you go from here?
Right.
And this is definitely in a, what's the word I'm looking for? This is definitely an initial entry into this ongoing story of where this technology is going to go. But, from the beginning, it's already looking a little dicey.
Yeah. And then you start to get the people that are going to, we have folks that already like to fight science as it is without us trying to play God in it.
Yep.
And now you bring in an entire, I don't know what percentage of the world is, religious based.
Well, there's about 2 billion Christians in the world alone. So
you're at least, I would go like 80%. I think 80% of the world is faith based.
And
some kind.
In some form of faith or spirituality, not necessarily an organized religion.
Right.
That doesn't sound inaccurate to me, but I'm not going to make too many assumptions.
And so then this is just, then that number really doesn't matter, but it's like...
The fact is that number doesn't matter because the scale is goddamn billions.
Yes.
And that's why it matters.
and when they are going to come to look at this, and even some parents nowadays, like some parents don't even like to know the gender of their child before it's born.
In which case... would you please please go back to your Amish reservation. like,
And I don't get why you wouldn't want to know. Like, well, first
No,
of all,
I
you buy
totally-
your own shit. Like, you want to be able to be like, okay, I got to get baby boy clothes or baby girl clothes or whatever fucking, I don't know what 67 genders you want to pick from at this Z, because that's on this fucking thing now. You get the point.
Yeah,
where
it's because people want to do things the traditional or the natural way because that's such a bias that they have. It's like natural is always better, even though you dumb fuck, you're a human being. Everything you do is inherently natural. When people say because you are a part of nature and nature has infinite angles and complexities and sides to it. Like, when people say it's the more natural way, they mean it's the more wild way. This is the way we did it when humans were in the fucking wilderness. That's what it means. And there are some strategies from that type of survival that are valuable in real world life.
Food.
But, like, you got to update the programming with each new iteration,
Yeah, looking at you, anti-vaxxers. Looking at you. Because, goddamn you. Like, I cannot emphasize this enough. If you are a parent that is in the process of thinking about, or you are in the, you have a child, for the love of God, vaccinate your kids. Do it. I don't care how political you think that sounds. Vaccinate your fucking child. It's called herd immunity. That's what it is.
And if you don't believe us, remember that right now on fucking, I don't know, God, what's the date?
That's the 10th.
On the 10th of February right now, we have fucking measles outbreaks going on like it's 1660 again.
Yeah.
Like, let me put it this way. I understand the instinct not to trust medical professionals. Being involved in the mental health community as a patient for as many years of my life as I can, I've run into some real motherfuckers out there, and I've run into some people who put me on medications or treatment plans that could have killed me. I understand the aversion to trust medical professionals, not to mention that so many countries, especially Germany and even the United States, have a history of using the less franchised in any respect for their scientific fodder. Just look at what happened in Nazi concentration camps or what American scientists did to slaves in the early days of this country back when medicine was fucking witch doctory.
Yeah.
I understand that there is a deep-seated mistrust of doctors and medical professionals in the world out there. But also, grow the fuck up, because vaccination is older than that and much more important than that. Like, vaccinations are the reason that this current world in which we exist, where you can even consider the possibility of whether these practices are valid, that world only exists because of these practices, because we don't have fucking smallpox anymore. Like, I have gotten in serious fights with people about this. If you are an anti-vaxxer, you are an abuser of children. I will be that explicit with it. You are a bad parent.
That's true.
I can't really give ground on that. I've said on the show I try to be as apolitical as I can, but this is a thing where it's like you need to pull your head about 6 feet out of your ass and go get a goddamn MMR shot before your kid really suddenly needs one.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
It's just like, God, I got everybody fired up on that one. I love that one. That's probably my favorite. It's because it's been in the news lately, so I figured, yeah, hey, we might as well bring that up. But people, and here's the logic of all this, and people that don't understand how scientific papers and the scientific community works. So if I write a paper and I say, okay, I develop a study that goes, vaccines cause autism. I have a direct correlation that says, if insert vaccine into child A develop autism. I do not insert vaccination A into child B does not develop autism. Oh, suddenly I have found correlation.
Child C in control group does not develop autism.
Yes,
bang.
That's the thing. Like, and so yes, there are people that are going to create those studies because inherently it's going to happen. Like, you may have an instance where you give a vaccine to a child. The child was already at a predisposition for autism. The vaccination did not cause the autism. You just found it. And then all of a sudden we have a paper that gets written by somebody that cannot be repeated, that gets put out into the community.
It can't be falsified either. If your study has no falsification or no hypothesis in there anywhere, it's inherently unscientific. It's not valuable to the community at all.
No.
That's why Freudian and Jungian psychology are looked at as a fucking laughing stock of the psychological sciences right now, because almost none of what they did is provable or falsifiable.
And then we'll say one of those papers makes it out, gets published, right?
Which is what happened in the 90s.
Yes.
And again, like 10 of the original 12 creators of that paper have come out and said, yeah, we were full of shit. Sorry. Like, that's not a good sign to begin with either.
No. And then it gets picked up by the news or whoever, or whatever group, whatever, organization wants to pick it up and
Or
spiral
just the
it.
goddamn internet.
Yeah. And goes, hey, look, vaccinations cause autism. And then you go, here's 10,000 other articles that say how it does not do that. And here's an article disproving that this could not be repeated in any lab form, in any way, shape, or form.
And to all you people who think that, Big Pharma or the American Medical Association or all these things that doctors are in bed with so much. Again, I'm not saying those types of doctors don't exist. The simple thing is that there are so many studies that come from beyond those organizations and from beyond our borders that refute every single aspect of the anti-vax movement. Every single bullet point. And people are saying where it's like, I know some people personally where it's like, they themselves were vaccinated as children, but they believe that was an unethical choice made on their behalf and that they don't plan on vaccinating their children when they have them eventually. And their logic is that, parents deserve to be informed and deserve to choose. And for most issues, you are correct. It is your child. You need to do whatever it is, that you feel is appropriate for how you're going to, shape this life that you chose to create. And with vaccination, I can't see it that way. I can't. Because if I tell you, Nick Church, if I tell you that it's raining outside, your job is not to quote the guy sitting next to me who says it's dry and quote both of us and let the people decide. Your job is to look out the goddamn window and see if it's raining or not. Like it, and then you report that.
Yeah.
That's where it's like there are some things where it's like you are not entitled to your opinion. You can only be entitled to an opinion that is an opinion, an idea formed from empirical observation of the data in your life around you. That's what an opinion is. That's what a theory is. Opinions and theories can be wrong. Science can be wrong. You can't be wrong with a body of scientific literature hundreds of years old and the millions of lives and their descendants, some of whom may now be fucking anti-vaxxers now, that have been spared as a result of this technology. Like, oh, God, like, sorry, I just went off for
that was
5 fucking minutes.
That was great, Kyle. I appreciated it.
God, yeah, the anti-vax thing, I really cannot understand. Well, actually, I understand it perfectly. Again, I understand not trusting doctors, but I really just cannot rationalize it. I can't look someone in the face and say what you believe is okay on this front. That's why I just don't fucking talk about it with people. You're not going to win, man. Like, I'm not going to change your mind. You are determined to believe whatever about this because you want that. You want belief. You want to shape your own opinions on the issue, not to have, an analysis and dialogue about the facts.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've noticed this lately, but it is true that a lot of people throw out facts and logic and reason as terms when discussing opinion-based issues a lot nowadays. Thanks, Ben Shapiro. And I agree that I understand that that's a thing that happens. Like, everyone says they're representing facts, but really whose facts are they, and are they facts at all? I understand that. But this is bigger than that. And the proof is much older than these debates.
Yeah. So getting back to the factual part, I love that you brought up, we'll segue into talking about factual stuff, because I got into a really fun debate. Because, my favorite thing to do is to, as the internet I am, when people post stupid shit, on like Facebook or Twitter or, wherever, and you don't want to say anything because you're like, it's not going to do any good.
It's 9 times out of 10, it's just going to make you look like an ass.
Right. But there's some times that I just can't help myself. Like, I just can't do it.
That's why I don't have social media anymore, man. I know that feeling.
And so the debate that I got into this individual with was the recent discussion about, it was an article that got published, and it was a gal that reshared this article that Trump wanted to reintroduce Bible classes into public schools. And so, stopping for a second, when you read the article, because people read that tagline, it goes, Trump wants to put Bible class back, or mandatory Bible class back in school. And it wasn't mandatory Bible class. It was the option for individuals to take a Bible studies elective on the New and the Old Testament. And I was like, okay, all right.
But that's the type of shit you need to be doing in college, man.
Right, and that's my thing. But I was like, okay, so here's the logic. And then I threw this out to them. I went, real conversation here, because I really do want to know, is if you're okay with me putting the Christian Bible, the New and the Old Testament classes out there for kids to go and take if they want to. You also better be okay with an option for them to take a Torah studies class,
a Quran studies class.
And I was like,
maybe they want to study fucking Shintoism.
Yeah. And I had somebody go, no, that's not, this country was built on God. And
no, this country was built by people who believed in God on the premise that they didn't want to pay their fucking taxes. There's a big difference.
Yep. And so I threw it out there, and I was like, there is a line in the Constitution that reads, thou shalt not create a law establishing a religion. That's what it says. It's like, and that was, that doesn't mean, that was sans Christianity. I was like, how is that sans Christianity? Where in there in any way, shape, or form does that say, no, except the Jesus people, they're allowed, that's the religion this country was based on, so we're going with that one.
Yeah, dude. And I understand that, so many people base the identity of a Christian nation on the fact that so many irresponsible politicians in the 200 years since then have legislated and made some very heavily Christian-favored laws. But in the original document, in the Constitution that this whole shit's based off of, don't establish a religion. That was the exact terminology.
Excuse me. But getting into it, so then I start to go back and forth with this individual, and they're talking about it, and they were like, well, they talked about, that it's, why is it okay for biology and evolution to be taught in school, but we can't teach creationism in school? And I went, okay, stop.
Is that a real actual thing that a real actual human being
a real person wrote it?
Are you sure this wasn't a bot?
Yeah, I was like, okay. And then so I went, please explain to me. And he goes, because there's more evidence about biblical creationism that supports creation theory than supports evolution. And I went, hold your fucking horse. I was like, where on God's green earth did you fucking read that? Where did that come from? And I was like, show me your source. I want to see it. Show me where there is more biblical evidence than evolutionary evidence in any way. And I'm having a fucking fit. I'm just are you fucking kidding me? All right. So he sends me an article, and I might try to pull this up because it was that fucking good.
Oh my God. But damn, you kept the receipts, huh?
I did. But he sends me that because I was like, legitimately, I was like, I want to see the fucking article that you are pulling this. Well, there's more proof about the Bible than there is about evolution. All right, so show me. And so he sends me this article, and I'll have to find this. But as I talk, and if I can't find it, they start to get into this. I'm reading through this article, and in the article, it's talking about, well, because there are more copies of the New Testament around still, there are 20,000 more original copies of the New Testament than any other form of literature during that time. And I went, stop. Do you know why that is? Because literally, the religion set fire to the buildings like the Library of Alexandria. Let's not forget how many thousands of possible years of knowledge we lost because they just torched a fucking building full of literature. And I was like, that doesn't mean anything. Just because there's 20,000 fucking signs that say, the sky is green, doesn't mean the sky is green. That's not a correlation. And it's got all these in-text citations about when it was uncovered and shit. We found this version of the document in.
So what? So by that logic,
yes.
In 2,000 years, when the nuclear apocalypse has come and gone, and humanity has rebuilt its societies, when they find the 30,000 plus copies of Christopher Paolini's Aragon, dragon riding will be the new religion of the day because that was what was,
yes.
That was what they had more numbers of. That was probably what it all boiled down to was fucking Aragon.
Yeah. Here we go. So this was the comment that this gentleman wrote back to me was, because my question, I'll read you the exact comment was, so question, understanding full well that debating over Facebook rarely does any good, and more of this is a genuine question of understanding. How is there, quote, a lot more evidence to support biblical claims over evolutionary theory. You can't just throw out a statement like that and not back it up with facts. And then he comes up to it and goes, for starters, there are more surviving copies of the New Testament than any other existing historical manuscript, so it passes the tests of authenticity and validity. And I was like, what the fuck does that even mean? And this is a good link that breaks down. So he sends me, it's called Kenoba.org. So you can go online, Kenboa.org, which is a religious-based website, by the way. Let's preface with where this article comes from. And they ask, how can we trust the Bible? And the three tests are the bibliographic test, the internal test, and the external test. Have you ever heard of this shit, Kyle?
I haven't. I can't say that I have.
In any of the thousands of papers that I have encountered in my fucking life, I have never once uncovered, what this means.
My dude, I went to fucking Catholic school for 4 years, and I have not heard any of those terms. And I've read the Bible end to end. So I have no idea what he's talking about.
Here we go. So the bibliographic test. The first test examines the quantity, quality, and time spent between the oldest copy and the original writing of the text. This test examines the question, when we read the books of the Bible, are we reading what those books originally said? So quantity is what we're talking about. And then it compares the quantities of how many versions of the New Testament we have versus copies of texts from Homer, Plato, Aristotle, Caesar, Tacitus, whatever. The list goes on. I'm like, I don't give a shit. That doesn't mean.
I mean, look, this does prove that there were a lot of people in that era who wanted to create this text and have a copy of it. That's all it proves. It doesn't prove that it was written by fucking God. It doesn't prove that it's an accurate historical timeline of the era. All it proves is there were a bunch of people that were practicing these same myths and these same religions. They had the same text on it, and it was all probably provided for them by the same body of work, considering the fucking Council of Nicaea was a thing. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't. That's all it proves, is that this was a real text with a unifying set of content that was consistent across a set period of time. So it proves it was an actual document. It doesn't prove it's fucking true, dipshit.
Yep.
There's a big difference.
Moving on to the internal test, Kyle.
Okay.
The second test of tests the reliability of the biblical documents and addresses the question, what claim does the Bible make about itself? And then it starts to go into this, that because the Bible authors claim that their accounts are true, that they are primary accounts, and then it goes on to cite how real world events occurred in in this section of the Bible, it quotes that this event is happening, and then it goes, at the same time, it's like, those events were happening in the real world when this book was being written. So of course they fucking made their way into the book if those people were experiencing that shit. That doesn't prove anything again. And again, throughout this, there's in-text citations that I'm like, I can't wait to get to the fucking source section of this document and just have a fit. And then the external test is because the scriptures are continually referred to historical events, they are verifiable, and their accuracy can be checked by external evidence. Because, other cultures like the Romans, Greeks, and the Jews wrote about these, that makes them valid. That because, we have writings about Jesus Christ from the Greeks or a Roman or one person mentioned it, that must mean it's true. And we uncovered all of these tablets from various portions of time that have make reference to this document. No.
Again, all this proves is that document existed and was consistent across all the copies of it that were available. It says nothing about its truth and validity. Not to mention that in terms of the internal test of what the Bible says about itself, quote unquote, the Bible is a story where a man tells you that God loves you so much he'd do anything for you, and then you flip back a few chapters and a bunch of kids are murdered by two bears because they mocked a bald man. The Bible internally is a fucking mess, and it always has been. It's completely contradictory in almost every respect, from book to book, from passage to passage. What are you on about? Oh my.
Right. So then I look at this and I examine the footnotes of this document, and the footnotes are citations to the same website. So it's citing its own website.
Are you fucking serious?
I swear to God, those are articles written, and I'm showing Kyle for people that can't play the home game. Those are articles written inside its own website or written by, quote, the Contender Ministries.org Bible Study. What? Okay, so right there, you discredit your entire document because you have cited yourself as your own source. Like, that is not fucking, like, you, okay. And it goes on.
I love how, like, we started this just as, like, an example of, like, the type of thinking that goes into why, like, scientific theory should be taught in schools versus, like, religious creationism. And now we're just getting to the point where it's like, man, I just want to keep going. I just want to keep going down this bullshit rabbit hole we found on this website. Like, this is beautiful chaos.
And this is the kind of shit, like, and this is the reason I'm bringing this up, because this is the type of shit that people post online and use to defend claims like this shit. Like,
and again, that's not necessarily the best metric in terms of the general pulse of the public, because the internet is one gigantic echo chamber.
Truth.
Even though, like, I will admit I still use the internet and I still have my favorite echo chambers. That doesn't change what it basically is.
And so a gentleman and I both pointed out to this individual that this article was written by a church website.
A gentleman and I. Yes. I see you got some backup.
There was another guy that was already in here on this thread. And then somebody else decided to jump in this and say that we're an idiot because church and state have been aligned since 1992 and go educate yourself. And I was like, okay.
Well, what the fuck happened in 1992?
We'll get back to that. So then back to this other individual, and his defense of the article was, it's a peer-reviewed article nonetheless, regardless of the source. Clearly, you have no idea what makes evidence empirical and provable. That was the defense of that article. Like, so by that same stature, any article that is peer-reviewed, if I check it for spelling in the Onion, that is a real article. Like, are you fucking kidding me? What?
This is just beautiful, man.
Right?
This is just
like, are you fucking kidding me?
And the thing is, like, to me, this is hilariously shocking entertainment. That's because I don't have social media anymore, so I don't fucking encounter these types of people anymore. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, for you, I'm sure this is just day to fucking day if you're on the average Facebook login.
Oh, I think it's great. And then I'm, like, trying to find out, like, what the fuck happened in 1992. And
what are they talking about? The election of the religious right? Because, like, that's a pretty thin metric there, too.
And then the individual wrote back to me, if you truly wish to know, research it. I'm not your teacher.
You need to get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, man. You make a claim, the burden of proof is on you. Simple fact.
That's true.
God, that's the one. Sorry, that's the one that gets me the most, is go figure it out yourself.
That's my favorite. So then I tried to Google 1992 and, like, because I don't know what 92 could mean anything. Is 92 an amendment number? Is 92 a year? Is 92 like how many cousins you slept with? I don't know.
Okay. Let's not get too personal. Attack the ideas, not the man.
It's all right. I'd sneak in some humor there. It's all right. I'm getting used to it. But it's like, I just don't understand. And then I looked it up, and there's nothing there. So again, it's right back to where you're at. If you're gonna post or you're going to say things like that, whether you post it online or you say it in real life. Like, if I had heard that conversation in real life, I'd probably been like, can you tell me where you heard that? Because I am genuinely curious, like, what that means. I just really want to know, because I want to show you how maybe misinformed you truly are.
But that's the thing, man. Like, that's sometimes, as much as I hate to say it, that can be vanity.
That's true.
Because other people, they just want to believe what they want to believe.
And that's fine.
And that's the thing. That's why if I heard that type of shit in public, chances are I'd just walk away. Because as soon as I hear those words, I know in my head, oh, okay, yeah, this is the dumbest argument I have yet engaged in, and I know that all that's going to happen out of this is I'm going to get upset, you're going to get defensive, and chances are neither of us is going to change our position whatsoever.
That's
so
true.
Can't we just talk about something else, like anything else?
The weather, news,
yeah,
sports.
Well, news is not exactly a safe option lately either.
That's right. I guess we can't really.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate. But
again, like,
that's the world we live in.
Exactly.
That's the world that we
And that's not necessarily the world we're always going to live in. You know,
we all died in 2012. We just don't know it.
I've heard that one a lot, and it's a.
Have you really felt alive since then, though, Kyle? Has any of us? No, I'm covering for him while he.
Sorry, I had to flatulate from my face.
That's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Tell me more. Talk dirty to me.
Cool. Talk dirty to me?
That's pretty much where we're at.
God. Oh, I don't even remember what I was going to say now.
It's okay. You got to fart with your face and you do what you got to do.
Oh, my God.
It's Beautiful time.
Yeah.
Beautiful time to be alive.
Beautiful time indeed. Like, and the thing is, like, taking this, like, this religious tangent we've gotten onto and, like, wrapping it back around to the CRISPR, that's something that I've also considered when I think about this is like, the fearful and the religious are just as much a threat to legitimate legislation of these technologies as are the people who want to manipulate them for eugenic purposes.
Right.
Like, the people who won't let the technology be implemented because of some inner God-fearing instinct, you know, that's going to create a system where it's going to become a black market technology. And the only place you're going to see it implemented is, you know, unreliable clinics and scientific settings where none of the data is usable because it was obtained in an unscientific format. So while I understand people's, like, fear, you also have to understand that, like, this is going to happen whether we want it to or not. This technology is going to come into use. It's going to happen. And if you don't educate yourself on the implications of it, which, again, I'm not nearly as educated on it as I would like to be.
No, neither am I.
We've mostly just been talking about the theoretical implications of it, not necessarily
What it
the
does.
actual science.
Yeah.
And, like, that's the thing where it's like, I do want to know more about that. I do want to have a better idea of how these technologies work so that I can make informed decisions about them. Not, I don't know how this technology works, so I want the government to make it go away.
Yeah.
Big difference.
And there's a really good book that I've started to dabble in a little bit before we recorded this. There's just so much to take in that it's hard to I got to read through it a couple of times. It's called A Crack in Creation is the name.
Dude,
of the
I
book.
saw an advertisement for that
Yeah,
earlier.
it's a book you can either buy it on Amazon or you can download the ebook for free. So the PDF version of the book is free.
Dang.
You can go online and listen to it. Written by, don't quote me on it. Anyway, just look it up. I'll fucking, you know.
Crack in Creation.
Crack in Creation.
It's a badass name, too.
Yeah, I think it's dope. It's a good, like, band name too.
Dude, I could see that being some, like, crazy experimental, like, gent death metal shit, you know?
Just something really outrageous where they're like, what in God's
You just got a bunch of Swedish dudes screaming the brains out, shredding hard riffs.
Yeah, so if you go on Amazon.com, you can actually pull that up and you can find it. And I highly encourage you read it because I'm looking through it right now and trying to take some notes on it and get it figured out there. Other than that, you know, there's plenty of news articles that have been written. There's a lot of scientific papers out there.
Always check your sources, though.
Seriously, yeah,
Make sure they're not citing themselves.
Go to Google Scholar, people. That's a helpful tool. Like,
I don't
tool for you.
I don't take advantage of that.
I don't either. I
should.
Not as much as I did when I had to use it for school. Like back in the day,
didn't
you're
even
like,
use it.
fucking Google Scholar for cited sources.
Dude, I didn't even use it for school. Like, I was just doing my school's database or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that was available to me, or I would have used it all the fucking time.
And then same with, like, for people that use Wikipedia, it's a valid tool, but my advice to you is don't necessarily quote the Wikipedia page. Look at the footnotes that they're deriving that information from. There's that little, like, colorful number that's attached to the line of the text. If you click on that, it'll take you to the bottom of the page, and that usually will
We call it a hyperlink.
Yeah. So you can use it to actually pull up and look at the actual source of information where somebody, you know, wrote that down from. So you yourself can check it that way. That's usually what I end up doing if I read something in Wikipedia, is I go, oh, where did they actually find that? Oh, okay.
Well, you're
now
already
I
a
see.
step ahead of one of my college professors with that line of thinking, because he'd straight up just look up shit on Wikipedia to answer our questions in class. Like,
And again, Wikipedia doesn't totally invalidate your information. It's just like you have to understand.
it's an aggregate of informational sources, and so some of it's going to be good, some of it's going to be bad. You got to verify, check where it came from.
Yeah.
If you see an article making large, sweeping claims with almost no footnotes or citations, you know,
Probably bullshit.
You can do the math.
Yeah, just figure it out. And at the end of the day, do the research for yourself. That's the most important thing you can do.
Unless you're in a debate with someone, in which case you do need to stress the factor that the burden of proof is on them.
Yeah.
But if you're researching something yourself, go find whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, like I'm all for having like because in those instances, a lot of the time, I just genuinely want to know. Like that's just who I am. I'm legitimately curious as to where this train of thought or this line of thinking has derived from and has now grown into this, you know, ideal that you fight for. Like where did that start? Where were you informed on this? Like maybe I'm right, for all I know, maybe I am wrong. Who knows? There was some article published by, you know, fucking Stephen Hawking that came out when he died about Jesus being, you know, the Allfather. I don't know. Like but legitimately.
So Jesus is Odin, is what
Yes.
you're saying.
Yeah.
Jesus is the all-father of all Norse mythology.
Yes, he is.
Thank you, Stephen Hawking, for clearing that up.
So just go online, figure it out.
Or better yet, go to a goddamn library. Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of them, and for the most part,
and they're one of the few
for free.
places in this country. Yeah, they're one of the few places in this country you can go to where you don't have to be expected to pay money to exist in that place.
No, and it's great, and there's awesome resources, and I don't know what it is.
Stole that line off Twitter for anyone who called me out on that. I'm sorry, that was not my statement.
It's gonna be all right.
I'm not that creative.
And there's something about me with like actually holding a book that I can't. Ebooks are hard for me. Like I have to hold a tangible copy of it.
I can do ebooks, and I've definitely read a fair number of them, but I prefer a physical copy just because I'm half my mother, and my mother was a book fiend. Like, if books were a form of cocaine that you could put, like, in your system, like, in a narcotic manner, dude, absolutely my mother would have been a fucking book addict.
Like just get after it. My mom was a Stephen King book addict. That was her.
I remember you showed me like her collection when I visited. She had a bunch of Stephen King books.
Speaking of which, did you see the totally unrelated, but they released another trailer for the new Pet Sematary movie?
It actually looks kind of promising.
I was like,
because the original movie is hot garbage, but in the grand tradition of Stephen King adaptations. But the new tradition of Stephen King adaptations started with It.
yes,
And It, the new one, was actually pretty good.
pretty solid. We saw that together. That was a great time. We're gonna go see part 2. I think it's this year.
It's either this year or next, and I'm very excited because the cast is amazing. James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain, like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's a lot. Bill Hader, I think, is in it too.
Dude, he's either Eddie or Richie, and
He's Richie.
that's such a goddamn perfect casting. Like,
Yeah, I'm super excited for it. So I guess that's a perfect segue into talking about things, our favorite end of podcast discussion. Kyle.
do you think we didn't have a wrap up on the CRISPR subject?
I think we can touch on it again. I think we'll tell you what. We'll do a part 2. We'll do some research. We'll come back to it.
For sure.
This is kind of take this as we're getting back into the flow of this, and this is the pin holder for us to actually do the research. And the next time, instead of just talking about the theory behind it, we'll talk about how the technology itself actually works.
At least in terms of the information we can access.
Right. And, there's some really great people out there. I'm sure there's plenty of podcasts that have been done about the breaking down the actual scientific piece or videos online. I think it's helpful to see anytime I read it, there's a lot of diagrams and a lot of actually showing you how the gene is broken down and things. And that to me is more helpful, but we'll still talk about it.
Well, because it's putting the theory to like a visual, like applicable example, so you can get an idea of how it actually interacts with the real world.
Yeah, and
that's helpful information.
Yeah, so we'll have a part 2 there with another fun CRISPR, CRISPR tender meal. Pun. So I'm glad we could all agree that this episode will be titled CRISPR Chicken Sandwich, and
I'm not going to validate you on this.
It's happening. It's already done, Kyle. I don't know why you're fighting me on it.
I'm not fighting you. I'm just judging you.
But back to the old favorite that
Yes.
everybody loves to hear. It's the what have I seen, what have I read, and what have I heard this week. Kyle, do you want me to go first? Or you want to go first?
Why don't you go first so I can grab my cell phone and open up my various apps?
Cool. So diving into what I have heard this week, good luck to you if that headphone extends all the way to your cell phone because...
Hey, you shut your mouth.
I'll tell you. Music-wise, band I've really been enjoying lately is a band called Fever 333. They are a kind of a mix. Best way I can describe them is kind of a heavy rock version of, as Rage Against the Machine already is a heavy rock band. Mix them with like the Beastie Boys, and
Now
that's what you get.
whoa.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty neat.
It's dope. We're gonna listen to it after this.
Sick.
So the album is called Strength in Numbers, and it is sweet, beginning to end. I dig all the tracks. Thoroughly excited to be for listening to. For something I have read this week, I have actually started to delve into some other books that were recommended to me by my lovely girlfriend and assistant Jordan that I'm gonna go grab here in a second. But the book is called In Cold Blood, and I gotta pull up the title here, or the author at least, so I don't look like a complete tard muffin. Yeah. Well, I'm not using the R word. That's not what I was using that for. That's just like
No, dude, you're cool.
Cool. By Truman Capote. That was
Truman Capote.
Yeah. So it's a nonfiction book, actually published back in 1966, that talks about some small town murders that occurred, that kind of really shook up a community, and it's like based on a real story. And so the book is really, really interestingly written because it bounces. It's written kind of as a fiction, but it bounces back between the family that's about to get murdered and then like the murderers, and like shows you where they're all at respectively throughout the day as they come closer to like the convergence point of the crime.
I like that. Like
pretty sweet.
Kind of non-linear storytelling in a non-fiction setting.
Yeah, it bounces back, and if you like Game of Thrones jumping around, I guess you'll be into that shit. And then for what I have seen, show-wise, The Punisher Season 2 is now on Netflix.
I still need to finish Season 1.
If you have not gone and seen it, it's great. It is just phenomenal. John Bernthal is like the perfect cast for Frank Castle. And Season 2 introduces a really cool old villain there, and it just really works. He finally kind of becomes the Punisher in this season, so I'm really excited to keep diving into that. But there's some other interesting kind of shorter videos that have come out this week that have kind of caught my interest. Kyle and I touched on it earlier. The second trailer for the new Pet Sematary movie came out. So it's kind of a spoiler, not spoilery trailer, but it kind of goes through the whole film, so you understand the gist of it. If you don't know the plot of the film or the book, it will kind of spoil it for you, but so kind of take that with a grain of salt. And then last week, I was also graced with the 30-second teaser trailer for Avengers Endgame.
Was that the Super Bowl teaser?
Yes.
I walked out of the room during that.
It didn't have any other details that we had not already seen again, but like the tagline of that trailer is probably the best part about it. And it's some people move on, but not us. And like that was the tagline of it all. So pretty cool. 30 seconds doesn't show you anything else about anything, because Kyle and I are both on the please avoid Avengers Endgame spoilers trail. I don't read
Dude,
the
I haven't
articles
even seen the
anymore.
new trailers for fucking Captain Marvel. Like, I am that deep in avoiding this shit because this is probably my last major involvement with the Marvel franchise as a fan.
And then I made him watch the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer, and we collectively shat our pants.
It does look pretty good, but again, it's going to be a hard sell for me because, like, for me, Endgame is where I'm like, I feel
it's your end game.
It is.
So yeah, go ahead and check that out, Kyle.
Yes. Okay. So in terms of things I have watched recently, what I've seen, I recently discovered John Mulaney.
So fucking funny.
Dude, holy shit. There are so many garbage comics on Netflix, and I thought John Mulaney was just going to be another one of them. No. Absolutely worth the hype. Go watch John Mulaney's Kid Gorgeous at Radio City.
So good.
That was the first one of his I saw. It's one of his more recent specials. Oh my god, dude, he's just a gut buster, and like he is perfectly like my style of comedy. Like I just love it. I love John Mulaney's his work. In terms of things I've been listening to, what have I been listening to? Ooh. The fucking Red Dead Redemption 2 soundtrack. That's what I've been listening to.
So good.
Because many of you know me as the resident weeb, but I am also the resident folk Americana fan. I love folk music and I love country music. And the soundtrack of Red Dead Redemption 2 has some of my favorite folk Americana performers, like Rhiannon Giddens, Willie Nelson. Like, there's some genuinely amazing stuff on this album. Particularly look up, if you're not planning on playing the game and you don't mind spoilers, look up this track by the artist D'Angelo, D''Angelo, A-N-G-E-L-O, and the song is called Unshaken. You can find it on Spotify. If you don't care about spoilers from the game, listen to the song. If you do care about spoilers for the game, don't listen to it because it is associated with one of my favorite moments in all of visual storytelling. And
I've not finished the game yet.
Dude, oh god, I can't talk about it. I can't. That game had a very powerful psychological effect on me to the point that it like affected the way and quality in which I live my life in a positive manner.
That's good. But
still, like, goddamn, it's raw. And in terms of things that I have read, I've still been working on that. One of the books I talked about in our last couple of episodes was this.
Was it Roadside Picnic?
No, it was 2666.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, by that, I think he was either, he's a Hispanic author. I think he may have been Chilean. But Roberto Bolaño, I've been reading that, and that's been awesome. But there was something else I've been working on. Oh, yeah. My dad introduced me to John Grisham recently, who's like a super famous author. And he gave me this book called John Grisham's The Whistler. And it seems like kind of a, hard-boiled crime drama type deal. And I haven't read like a crime or thriller novel in quite some time. And first few pages were actually pretty interesting. I haven't gotten deeper into it, but I'm excited to read more. John Grisham's The Whistler. It looks pretty good.
Solid.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's been good to be back for sure. I'm excited to be back in the.
We'll see you again in like 4 fucking weeks, probably.
So get excited for part 2 coming in May of 2019.
Yeah,
it's Avengers Endgame. That's what the next version of this is.
God, we're gonna probably wind up doing like a 2.5 hour fucking episode when that movie eventually comes out.
100% full tilt. We are absolutely doing a breakdown of the entire film. I'm so down for it. So down for it. Because we are not that far away. That's the other thing. It's the end of April, and we are in the middle of essentially basically halfway through February, if you think about it.
And again, February is already shorter to begin with. So
yeah, we are so close to that, and I'm so excited. So we'll do that'll be an episode to definitely break down. We'll just call that the decompression session endgame, and I'll fucking get sued. So I'm excited for it.
And get sent a cease and desist by Disney.
I can't wait to get a copyright claim filed against my video, and none of the monetization that I'm not making anyway doesn't make its way into my bank account.
Motherfucker, we have like 10 fans. You think we're monetized?
Shout out to the 10 people listening.
We do love all 10 of you.
I do love you. You matter to me.
More than a friend.
You're like full tilt. You are do you want to be more than friends? I like you. I don't just like you. I like you.
I always hated that distinction.
Shut the fuck up. Just tell me you want to
You're weak.
Sometime.
You are weak.
Yeah, you want to go out sometime.
Yeah.
No,
but
But
in summation,
so
the watch, read, listen. You've got on my end of the trail, you got the Red Dead Redemption 2 soundtrack. You've got John Grisham's The Whistler, and you've got
John Mulaney.
John Mulaney, yes, Kid Gorgeous at Radio City.
Yeah, and to sum mine back up, coming back full to circle. To say full tilt for the 5th time. Fucking.
What do we call those? Verbal ticks?
Yes. In Cold Blood by Truman Capote is the novel that I am currently balls deep in. And then as for watching season 2 of The Punisher, now available on Netflix. And then listening to Strength in Numbers by Fever 333, available on Spotify. Beginning to end, listen to it.
Seriously. And with that, shill.exe is complete.
Yes. Once again, you can check us out, available on all major podcasting forums. So please recommend.
And YouTube, but we don't recommend it because they're platforms in flames.
Yeah. It's good if you don't want to pay for something, I guess. But nonetheless, please leave a review. We do appreciate it, and it helps more people kind of find the page. Whether it's good or bad, I could care if you 1-star me or fucking 5-star me. I don't give a shit.
I mean, we did kind of go with the religious today.
Yeah, give me that 1-star.
We may get
Sam.
some 1-stars.
I'm so ready for you. Bring it on, Bible Belt. And then you can find the notifications about the latest episodes on the Facebook page and the Instagram page at Decompression Session. You can spell that yourself. I'm not spelling out Decompression Session.
What about the burden of proof, Nick?
Shut the fuck up. So yeah, go ahead and check it out. New episodes available. We'll hopefully be back here soon. CRISPR chicken sandwich part 2 or CRISPR tender meal. We don't know.
With a side of fries.
Yeah, with a liter of cola. And with that, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you, Nick.
And we'll see you all next time.
Peace.